Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Hey there. Looking to level up your shopping experience? Let me introduce you to Amazon Live. If you haven't heard, it's a shoppable video experience where influencers and creators showcase the latest must-haves all while you shop in real time. And for those who love some celeb gossip, reality stars like Kyle Richards, Lala Kent, and friend of the pod, Paige DeSorbo. On her new show, In Bed with Paige DeSorbo, Paige invites top-tier guests to cozy up in her fluffy bed where they spill secrets, share nighttime routines, and even whip up midnight snacks. Stream and shop new episodes of her series In Bed with Paige DeSorbo every Tuesday at 7 p.m. ET by going to amazon.com/live/Paige_DeSorbo. Or you can watch Amazon Live's new live TV channel on Freevee or Prime Video under the DIY section and shop along on your phone.
Hello and welcome to 31 Days of Terror 2024, and we are on day number 18, and I have one spooky story for you today, and our story today comes from Chelsea, and it is from the 10th of September 2024. I have some experiences from our old house which we lived in 4 years ago, which I'd like to share. It includes phantom footsteps, a disembodied cough, a creepy iPad, and a full apparition. This all sounds like it must have come from an old haunted house, but it was a regular 1960s build in the middle of suburbia, with nothing particularly unusual about it, apart from the strong smell. It smelled awful to me. It was also a hard smell to describe. When I mentioned the smell to the real estate agent upon viewing it, she and my husband could detect nothing. I put it down to my strong sense of smell as I was 6 months pregnant. Anyway, I finally decided it was the curtains and ended up ripping all of them out when we moved in, putting in blinds instead. I do feel it got better after that, so really there's maybe nothing more to it than yuck curtains. You might also expect that we were terrified after what happened there. But let me tell you, sleep-deprived parents will brush off anything for a bit of shut-eye. My husband and I moved into this house in 2015 with our 3-year-old daughter, 6 weeks before our first son was due to be born. It wasn't our dream home or anything. It was more of a desperation buy, as we'd sold our first home a couple of months prior and needed a house before the impending birth. We would go on to have 2 further children at this house, so life was busy. And we were, not surprisingly, tired, with 4 little children to keep us on our toes. The split-level house was very tidy but also very tiny. I never loved it. Each bedroom was only just big enough for a bed and not a lot else. I set about renovating as soon as we moved in to try and make it feel bigger, painting everything white, freshening up the kitchen. I was a heavily pregnant mad woman doing some serious nesting. All the bedrooms were down the very narrow hallway, with our daughter's bedroom at the end, and our bedroom door to the right of hers, with us sharing a wall. And so I came to the first strange happening. I can't remember how long we'd been in the house, but my first son was in a cot, and my daughter was probably 4 at this stage. My husband and I had gotten into bed for the night, turned the light out and were just settling down for some precious sleep, when we heard our daughter's bedroom door bang open, and then footsteps sprint down the hall. "Oh, what is she up to? Can you go and check?" I asked my husband, feeling far too lazy to get up. He got up, opened our door and went to investigate. He came back shortly after. She's sound asleep and her door was still shut. What the actual fuck, we thought. We had distinctly heard this happen. Our house was tiny and there was no mistaking the noises. But as I mentioned earlier, the promise of sleep was more than enough for us to just shrug our shoulders and brush it off. But this wouldn't be the only time this happened. It happened at least 2 more times over a couple of years. So not a regular occurrence, but each time we were absolutely convinced our daughter had just sprinted down the hallway. But each time my husband was sent to investigate and came back with the same answer. She is fast asleep and her door was still shut. The other children were also all sound asleep, tucked up in their beds, just as we'd left them upon checking them moments before we'd gone to bed ourselves. Each time we just looked at each other and kind of laughed in disbelief. What the heck? My husband is not one to waste time on what he cannot explain, so he just hopped back into bed, agree that it was strange, and then go to sleep. I would lay awake a little longer pondering the situation. I'd like to add in here that my daughter never gets out of bed in the night, not even to go to the toilet. She just sleeps right through. Except for this one time in that house. My husband and I were watching TV late one night when all of a sudden our daughter came running into the lounge, sleepwalking or running for a more accurate description. She was running around in circles and giggling. I cannot tell you how flippin' creepy it was. Round and round she went, giggling in this really unnatural way, her eyes glazed. We had to guide her back down the hall, still giggling weirdly, and put her back to bed. What if whatever used to run out of her bedroom in the night had kind of possessed her in her sleep that night? Or I guess they were just unrelated incidents. On another occasion, we were getting ready for bed when I heard a loud, disgusting cough in the hallway. Our door was still open and it was right there in the hallway. The most yuck cough I'd ever heard, all gurgly, and it sounded like it had come from a sick old man. Of course, there was no one there. My husband brushed it off as the neighbour across the road coughing, as he was prone to do, but he knew as well as I did that it was not him. It was definitely not him. The next strange happening was after we'd been in the house about 3 years. It was in the lead up to Christmas and my husband was out one night at his work Christmas party. I was home wrapping presents under the Christmas tree and the children were all fast asleep in bed. It was so peaceful. I could even hear some sort of carol music. But where was it coming from? I got up and stuck my head outside the door, expecting to hear the Christmas carols floating along from somewhere outside. But no, I couldn't place the noise. I carried on wrapping presents but got up a further 2 times to go outside to try and find the music. So odd, I thought. As I went to head back to my wrapping the 3rd time, I passed my desk and realised that the noise was coming from there. I put my ear to the desk and realised the music was coming very softly from an old, unused iPad that had sat abandoned at my desk for the last 6 months with no battery charge. Completely dead, forgotten in the chaos of babies and small children. What in the actual hell? I pushed its button and found it had miraculously developed 5% battery and was playing some very, very old sounding Christmas carols. I'm pretty sure at some point years before I had saved that album while searching for Christmas music, but I didn't play it because it was too old to be enjoyable. It sounded creepy. I'd forgotten about it. And I certainly hadn't put it on to listen to it that evening, and certainly not on the dead iPad. But how very appropriate, I thought. On this very evening to start playing me Christmas carols, and how very, very odd. The final happening is the day my daughter saw a ghost. A full-on ghost. She was 6 years old now, and it was 2018. And we were getting ready to go to school one morning in June. It was such a regular, ordinary morning. Her getting her school bag ready and me trying to get her brother's shoes on before we had to rush out the door. The only thing odd about the day was that it was extremely foggy, like the densest fog I'd ever experienced. We couldn't see beyond our neighbour's garden. My daughter was putting her shoes on and staring out our front window when she said, that was weird." "What was weird?" I asked. "There was a man standing outside in Albert's garden, but when I turned away and then looked back, he was gone. "Oh, okay," I said, not thinking much of this. It was so foggy after all. "He was wearing a black dress with big sleeves and a white ribbon," she said. Odd, I thought, but again I was too busy to think much of it. He had long white hair and a long white beard, but the weirdest thing about him was that his skin was grey. Whoa. Hang on. Now she had my attention. "His skin was grey?" I asked. "Yes," she said, "and I couldn't see his feet." We had to rush out the door for school then, but I asked her to draw me a picture of this man when she came home. My daughter is a details girl, so I knew she'd observed him closely. I've attached her picture of him. "I think you've seen a ghost," I told her, amazed. He certainly wasn't anyone I've ever seen around the neighbourhood, or even from this century or last. What she had drawn was an old man with long white hair and a beard, wearing what I would describe as a priest's or monk's black cassock, complete with wide sleeves and a tie around the waist. He actually looked like Dumbledore, but it's important to know that she at this point had never seen or been read a Harry Potter book. Her universe was all Frozen's, Elsa and Peppa Pig. I woke up during the night following her ghost encounter. It suddenly felt important to know where this man had been looking. I asked my daughter the next morning. "He was looking at us," was the chilling reply. I have to say that I was a complete skeptic before she saw this man, despite the other unexplained events we'd witnessed. But when I could offer no rational explanation, I just knew that what she had seen was a ghost. I had to believe from that day. And it felt okay to now give these other events a paranormal explanation too. And now, becoming fascinated with podcasts such as yours, since it's impossible to deny paranormal phenomena exists. I've tried to find out who this man in the fog was, but to no avail. I even asked our local historian. The closest I've come to is the first priests to arrive in the Howick, Auckland area in the 1850s. I read the diary of the Reverend Lush. He arrived during this time and had to walk great distances every day to visit all his parishioners, like hours and hours of walking. He was amazing. I wonder if this man my daughter saw was one of these priests who used to walk the land past where our house now stood. Apparently there was once a stream through the property too. Maybe he used to stop there to fill his flask before continuing his journey. I really don't know, it's just my best guess. Since moving in 2020, our now forever home has offered nothing of any paranormal significance. My daughter has never seen another ghost, although every foggy day she stares out, hopeful that she just might. So you'll be glad to know that the picture will be on social media, so it will be posted on Instagram, on Facebook and on Patreon, so that you can see it, this little drawing of whatever this man was that Chelsea's daughter saw that morning. And there's nothing better than a kid's drawing, is there? They're so funny, but also so creepy at the same time. So, as described, it is a man, and he is wearing a long black dress that has like kind of balloon sleeves and like a white belt in the middle. And I mean, that's very definite, that's very clear in the drawing. You can see that he's in a garden by the little patch of grass that's been drawn, and then there's fog all around him. He has long strands of hair and kind of long strands of beard and delightful child drawing hands and no legs. So there's no feet. They are not there. They do not exist in this picture. And his skin is grey, and very pointedly grey, and he is quite scary looking. His lips are also black, which gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit too. But it's definitely worth going to have a look at that picture and just seeing what you make of it. And there's no denying what it is. It is a man in a black kind of robe dress type situation, white belt, long hair, grey skin. There is no denying what this is. So going back to the beginning of this story, I do kind of love it when it's just a degular like 1960s built-in suburbia kind of house. You know, it's not a big haunted mansion that's been there for centuries. It's not a house that was built in, you know, the 1400s, as you often find here in the UK. Like, a lot of our houses are very old. But when a house is a relatively new build with like no terrible, spooky, horrible history, you're just like, weird. So you're telling me this could happen anywhere, which is really not a comforting thought, you know. It's really not great to think that you could be living in your lovely modern new built house and it could be haunted as shit. Although something you said at the end of this story about how it was built on a stream, or where there was once a stream, is interesting to me, because I kind of don't enjoy making flippant paranormal statements like this. But I know people in the paranormal community say that water is like a conductor for paranormal energy, right? I don't know how, I don't know what that means, but people say it, so I'm just going to repeat it mindlessly. But maybe that is something to do with the energy and the experiences that you were having in your house. It's really interesting that the footsteps, door slam, footsteps sprint down the hall would happen regularly in that order, in that way. I wonder if it's like a stone tape theory type situation, like an echo through time, a residual energy. Something happened at some point in time where somebody in the house slammed the door, ran down the hallway. Maybe there was a huge heightened energy at the time. Maybe it was a really emotional moment and the house has absorbed it and plays it back every so often. And as for your little girl running around the house giggling, running around the room in circles giggling, sleepwalking, that might be the scariest thing that's happened in this whole story. Sleepwalking, kids sleepwalking, sleep running, whatever, is really scary. Like, it's really not unpleasant to watch. It is very weird. Weird coincidence that, you know, you hear that door slam sprinting down the hallway and then your little girl is sprinting down the hallway giggling. Look, let's just say it was unrelated, because it's easier to think that it was unrelated than to think of the other suggestion, okay? And I wonder if, I'm looking at these events chronologically, I wonder if an older man did live in the house at some point. Like, your description of the cough gave me the ick, because I know we all know exactly the type of cough that you are talking about, and we're not gonna describe it again for people. But like, I wonder if there was the energy of this old man in the house. Maybe he had been sick, maybe he had some sort of lung issue or whatever, or smoker's cough, who knows. I was speaking to Liam from the Lady in the Bay Window story, and that episode will have come out already by the time this one comes out. But in that episode, he talks about hearing a cough, a man coughing in the house as well, and being really, obviously, freaked out about it. I love that your husband's like, it's just the neighbour across the road. And you're like, I know you know that it's not him. I know that deep down you know that's not true. And I understand the need to kind of logically explain things and rationalise things, but deep down you know that's not really what just happened. And there's lots of things you could say about the iPad story. You could say, oh, you know, it just malfunctioned, it had more power than you thought, blah, 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 right? Unused iPad, sitting in a drawer somewhere, abandoned for the last 6 months. Right, what are the odds that it would suddenly come on at that point, right, where you're sitting at home, it's Christmas, you're wrapping Christmas presents for under the tree, the children are asleep. What are the odds it's going to come on, having been dead for 6 months, and start quietly playing very old sounding Christmas carols as opposed to anything else that was on the iPad? If that's just a weird coincidence, that is a pretty fucking weird coincidence. And going back to what your daughter saw, it really does sound like what she saw was some sort of religious man, right? Wearing a priest's or a monk's cassock with the tie around the waist, the wide sleeves, the whole lot. And maybe it is about that energy of those priests who would walk miles and miles and miles to see all their parishioners back in the day. Because actually, you know, parishes back in the day were probably bigger and spread out and more rural, and you'd have to walk long distances to see all your parishioners in order to maintain the numbers in the church and blah, 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 etc., etc. Maybe that's what she saw. Maybe she was seeing the ghost or the spirit of a priest doing that walk. And maybe they do it regularly. And like I said, that picture is on social media, so please go and check it out. Thank you so much for listening to day number 18 of 31 Days of Terror. Thank you to Chelsea for sending in your story. Remember, Chelsea's story came from the 10th of September 2024. And if you would like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or $2 $2 a month, you get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
Hey there. Looking to level up your shopping experience? Let me introduce you to Amazon Live. If you haven't heard, it's a shoppable video experience where influencers and creators showcase the latest must-haves all while you shop in real time. And for those who love some celeb gossip, reality stars like Kyle Richards, Lala Kent, and friend of the pod, Paige DeSorbo. On her new show, In Bed with Paige DeSorbo, Paige invites top-tier guests to cozy up in her fluffy bed where they spill secrets, share nighttime routines, and even whip up midnight snacks. Stream and shop new episodes of her series In Bed with Paige DeSorbo every Tuesday at 7 p.m. ET by going to amazon.com/live/Paige_DeSorbo. Or you can watch Amazon Live's new live TV channel on Freevee or Prime Video under the DIY section and shop along on your phone.